Taking you through Sunday evening. I'm Reya and I'm 25. On my weekly radio show, I explore race and identity in Britain. My own background's complicated. I'm mixed Arab Muslim and Jewish.
Everybody wants to be the DJ.
Now I'm going to Israel to try to understand the conflict that divides my own family. Bitter conflict over land and power in Israel between Jewish Israelis and Arab Palestinians has been going on for decades. It's a really dangerous place to be the sort of person that I am. And I can imagine a lot of people won't take that well. I'm definitely not ready for some parts of Israeli life. And in some places, being mixed puts me in a difficult position. My dad would not be allowed here, and he'd be mistrusted. I see the divisions created in the name of security. I can't really imagine what it would be like that this is your view out of your bedroom window. And ancient divisions that leave me isolated. And I know it's not religion itself and blah, 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 but religion is bullshit. I see victims of the conflict here on the Palestinian side. My eyes are burning and my skin's burning. I feel like I'm going to be sick. No, I can't. It's the only justification for shooting tear gas at kids. And I see how Palestinian violence affects Israelis.
His head just popped off like a champagne cork.
I don't know if I'm going to find any place in this country where I could belong. I'm completely haunted by what I saw, like that will never leave me. Growing up mixed race in Britain is complicated, but my background is extra difficult. My dad is North African Arab from a Muslim background. My mum was born and brought up in Britain, but she's Jewish. When my mum met my dad, her mum actually refused to meet him. My mum's side, my dad's side, we don't mix too much. I'd love for both sides of the family to be more integrated and put aside their politics, just to be able to have Christmas together of all events, or Eid or Hanukkah. My family wrestles with how to feel about the conflict. Even my Jewish mother has her doubts about Israel.
I was born just after the war, always heard my parents talking about the Holocaust, and Israel was somewhere to look to and to support. It was our place, but my views on that changed. And I now, and for many years now, don't support the Jewish state. I want a secular state for everyone in the Middle East.
Am I Jewish or am I Muslim? At the moment, that's not something that I'm willing to decide about. I feel like I'm both, and that is the answer. My brother Zaki went to Israel 10 years ago in a pro-Palestinian student group.
You don't want to see people being killed anywhere. I think Israelis, they've got to accept that if they're occupying someone's land, then there's going to be a reaction.
But I also think there's that sense that, like, you have your opinions and you're quite kind of sure in what you think, and then the other side of the family that are more kind of mum's side, that are more pro-Israel, have their opinions, and it's like there's no middle ground. I really want to go to this place that is such a source of contention in my family, in the world, and experience it for myself and have my own opinions rather than what one side of my family tells me and the other side of my family tells me what I should think. It's my farewell dinner. My family is supportive of my journey to Israel, but well aware that parts of it will be dangerous too.
I'm quite scared about it. Zaki has been there, he almost got shot. I wish that you go there and do your job and come back safely.
My house. The best outcome from this trip for me, the absolute ideal, would be to come away feeling like I know more about who I am. The worst thing that could come out of this is that I feel like I don't belong anywhere. I want to come back feeling like it's opened a door to find out more, not like it's closed a door. My first experience in Israel is not a good sign. Everyone in the crew gets through passport control, but I get taken away for questioning.
At first it's like, oh, here we go. But it's to be expected, isn't it? I mean, waving and skipping, holding hands with security guards. But at the same time, it's just like funny to sit in that room and everyone in there is brown and everyone getting through with no problem seems to be lighter skinned. I don't know, maybe that's just a coincidence, but the fact that the only other guy in there was called Mohammed was a bit like, oh, what a surprise! Hi Mohammed, I'm Reya El-Salahi, nice to meet you.
The modern country of Israel was founded in 1948, following the Holocaust of the Second World War. Before that, Jews were scattered all over the world. But Palestinian Arabs say this land is theirs because they've lived here for over 1,000 years. My first impression of Israel was a bit intimidating. But tomorrow, I'm meeting some young Israelis who will help me figure out what Tel Aviv is really like. I hope. I'm meeting Keren Cohen, a Jewish girl born in Israel who went to university in the UK. She moved back to Tel Aviv 2 years ago, and she and her friend Shania are keen to show me what they like about Israel. Hey, lovely to meet you. I'm Reya. Nice to meet you. Hello, lovely to meet you. Thank you for taking me around to shop today. I'm very excited. We have to have our bags checked?
Yes.
Okay.
Have to do every time.
Whenever you're going in and out of shops?
You have to get your bags checked.
Oh, wow. Keren and Shania have decided I'm going to get to know this city with some good old-fashioned retail therapy. Is it wrong that I'm going straight for like the disgusting bright pink?
Don't do it.
Hot-tastic.
No.
Thank you. I'm feeling ready to go out now.
Yeah, now we're ready.
I was having such a great girly day. But then on our way to the beach, we heard there had been violent attacks by Islamic militants on a town just 3 hours away. 8 people were killed.
The bus attack was quickly followed by 2 more coordinated assaults. Within minutes, an anti-tank missile blasted a private car, and a roadside bomb blew up Israeli soldiers on their way to help the bus victims.
For me, that's really scary. Does it not, in a way, kind of put you off living here, that there is that, as much as you've got this like beautiful beach life, beautiful shopping,
I think that
you've got that sinister side?
Just like anywhere else, you can, I don't know, get run over by a car. I don't think that
It's true.
it shortens my life that I live in Israel, because anything could happen anywhere.
Don't forget that we grew up in this reality, so we kind of get to know it. It still shocks us every time, but we just know that we have to carry on.
After a few drinks on the beach, it's not too hard to forget about the threat of violence. But I don't know if I could live with it every day, like young Israelis do. Today, I'm going to one of the most contentious places in Israel, a Jewish settlement called Itamar. Earlier this year, a settler family was brutally murdered there. 2 young Palestinians from a nearby village were arrested for the killings. I've been invited because of my Jewish side, but given my Arab side, I'm not sure what reception I'll actually get. Today, I'm going to have to swap all of that bright pink fluffy stuff for this body armour, which is really weird. I mean, within the space of 2 days in the same country, that was yesterday, this is today. Settlers are Zionists who believe they have a sacred duty to build communities everywhere in Israel, on land that Palestinian Arabs say is theirs. Settlements are considered illegal under international law. Itamar is surrounded by Palestinian villages deep in the heart of disputed territory. It's protected by the Israeli army, and security is really tight. I'm meeting Rabbi Moshe Goldsmith, the mayor here.
God gave us our homeland, and obviously the deed to the land is the Bible. We have a right to return to our land, and we have to work hard for it.
Moshe shows me a memorial to young people killed in attacks on the settlement.
Gilad, Stiglitz, Avram Yosef, Siton, and Shmuel, all these boys from the school, these 3 were killed here on premises, these 3 boys.
He looks so young.
They are, sure. They all were, don't forget, they're up to 17 and 18 years old, usually these boys. Look, this is tragedy, very, very difficult tragedy. This is the price, the terrible price Israel's paying to be Israel, just to want to live.
It's a bit strange. I think for some members of my family, they wouldn't be allowed here, which is why I feel so uncomfortable. My dad would not be allowed here, and he'd be mistrusted, which is why it's really strange. But I'm interested to find out more. I was really surprised and pleased when Moshe invited me to his home. He's lived here since 1985, when the settlement was just 2 rows of houses. Now over 1,000 people live here. Moshe's daughter, Marav, is studying to be a makeup artist in Tel Aviv. What's life like living here for young people? Is it fun?
Yeah, I love it. Like, the world is upside down. Everything, is so mixed up. And my head like hurts, and I come here and I feel peaceful. Like, I feel like I'm so happy. I'm so lucky to live here. It's so, it's kind of like a bubble.
Like her mum and dad, Marav is very proud of being a settler.
Here, it's exactly the heart of the land, and if someone, if you take a heart out of a person, he can't live. I always say, everyone that lives in Israel is a settler.
Moshe took me to the site of the horrific crime that happened here 9 months ago. The Fogel family lived here. Both parents and 3 of their children were murdered on a Sabbath night, including a 3-month-old baby. God, I can't begin to imagine what that must be like. The 2 young Palestinian men arrested for the murders were from the village of Awata, just across the valley.
The daughter Tamar, who's 12 years old, she's the oldest daughter of the family, and she escorted her friends out at around 10:15 out of the home. At that moment, the terrorists looked in, they saw one of the kids in the house. They ran around, the door was open, they went in the house, they locked the door from the inside, and they grabbed a hold of this boy and they cut his throat. And then they went to the next one. In the next room, they killed another boy. They went into the parents' bedroom. Then they first killed the father. And then the mother came out. They murdered the mother. And they went in the house. They heard the baby crying. They came back in and they cut the throat of the little baby. They stabbed the baby. Little tiny baby about that big.
The Fogel's daughter, Tamar, discovered the bodies of her family when she came home.
She runs out of the house screaming. The whole community woke up from her screams. And unfortunately, we found this horrific story. We found this terrible bloodshed right here.
2 of the Fogel's little boys survived because they were asleep. Along with their sister, they don't live in Itamar anymore. What did it make you think of the people that did it in the village that's just kind of in sight from where we are?
I think it's almost hard to us to believe that they were able to do something like that. More of a disbelief, like how is it possible that human beings could come along and in such a cruel way murder children, a family on the Sabbath.
What would you say to people that would say this is Palestine, this is the West Bank, and therefore it's Palestinian territories?
I would say to them the bestseller of more than any other book in the world is the Bible. And the Bible is an outright history, a deed to the land of Israel for the Jewish people.
Although I was shocked by the murders, I found Moshe's beliefs difficult to get my head round. I can't kind of understand how, based on a book, you can feel you have a right to live in a land. It just kind of doesn't make sense to me yet. But I couldn't stop thinking about the Fogel family. I was thinking I'd love to know what my brother would say to the thought of a child his daughter's age being stabbed in her cot. I don't know what he'd say about that, because the loss of life on either side is wrong and is terrible, and yet that was one side of that story. People are dead, that's a fact, but I'd like to speak to the other side. I'd like to hear what the other side had to say. If I can, later in my trip, I'm going to visit the Arab village Moshe pointed out, so close across the valley to Itamar. But first, I want to find out about one defining feature of Israeli life. Israeli citizens must join the army for 2 to 3 years, and it's an important shared experience for most young Jews here. Arab Israelis are exempted. They can volunteer, but it's rare. I meet a young lieutenant called Keren Hajioff. The Israeli Defence Force has arranged for me to spend the day with her in her flat and tomorrow on her army base. There's a press officer with us all the time.
אין לכם בזיליקו? אני לא מאמינה. פעם הבאה אני רוצה לראות פה בזיליקו. סבבה, סגור. He's got no basil. I mean, who doesn't have basil in their market?
Keren was born and grew up in London, but 2 years ago she moved here on her own to join the army. In Israel, women serve on the front line and in combat. I asked her what prompted such a huge decision.
Israel, it's just such an important part of Judaism, and I mean, there's just so much of a reason to be here, so much of an importance as a person for me to be here, and you know, really, I've never been this happy in my life, and I was a happy, you know, spoiled little British girl in London.
Then Keren gets a call. There's been another attack by Islamic militants in the south of Israel.
There's been a rocket attack on a school in Beersheba.
Which is where you're...
Which is very close to my base. Now, they told everyone in the area in the south of Israel just to stay in shelters, not to leave the shelters until further notice, which I don't know how long that will be.
So does everyone have a shelter in their house?
That's how we have to live. Even here there's a shelter because it's Israel, we're threatened on a daily basis.
Despite what had happened, Keren remained so upbeat about the army and Israel. On your hand you've got, is it a tattoo?
It's not actually a tattoo. I don't know why, I just take a pen, I just draw the Star of David on my hand, just because whenever I look at the watch, it's just like, what's the time? Oh, it's time to like love Israel, I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
She's British, she speaks with a British accent, she grew up in Britain, spent most of her life in Britain, and yet to her it sounds like this is home. And I find that so strange because for me, Britain is home. Cheers, guys, thank you for... I meet Keren and her friends for a drink. They're a close group, all Jewish, and mainly from London like Keren. Some live here, but 3 of the girls are on holiday.
Our home tend to all live very near each other and go to similar schools and similar camps, quite similar synagogues. So we do tend to mix. We're quite insular, I guess, without meaning to be, just because of who's around.
And also, like, I think that's one of the things that, like, a lot of people our age love about Israel, that where you go, everyone's Jewish. You go to a club, everyone's Jewish. It's just really nice.
So different.
I found this idea strange. Maybe everyone they hang out with is Jewish, but that doesn't mean everyone in Israel is. We're driving to Keren's base in the far south. We'll be passing close to areas hit by the Islamic militant attacks, so I'm a bit nervous. At first.
Safety here is vital. Don't go in any area that I don't tell you to go. Make sure you stay with me the whole time. Shooting is something that every soldier has to go through. They need to know how to protect themselves. At the end of the day, we're an army and we're here to defend a country and a people. So we're gonna go now. Don't be scared, I'm with you. Don't worry, hold my hand, I've got you. It's fine. You ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Amazing, let's go in.
Good afternoon, we're now going to do some shooting. And I will now give the order of fire. Rashaim! Esh! Fire! Check that you are on safety, stand up and hold your weapons at 60 degrees in the air. 10 out of 10, well done.
We got 10 out of 10?
Got 10 out of 10.
Am I right to take these off altogether?
Take them off, everyone stop shooting. What about you? 8 out of 10 from a girl, I mean that is impressive.
You're a chauvinist.
I'm not chauvinist, I'm just showing the world that women are able to do this as well.
I thought, coming down here, I want to have a go. I was quite kind of like pumped, like, oh, I really fancy having a go. Like, it's a once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing. Seeing that, I definitely don't want to have a go. And the thought of me as an 18-year-old being given a gun, I hate to think. I was just thinking, like, there's
X amount of people standing within arm's reach of me with deadly weapons. And I've never ever experienced that before, people like my age. So that was quite weird.
Karen brings me to try out an armoured personnel carrier.
Okay, hold on to everything, nothing falls off, and here you go. The next step you're gonna have to take that's gonna be very brave of you, you're gonna have to put on a helmet and just put it on your head like this.
Does it fit on my head?
It does.
My hair.
It does. You just gotta yank it. You just gotta yank it, don't you?
Why have you got a big hairstyle and you have to wear this?
Well, that's the reason why you just don't. You hold on to it?
I'll hold on to it.
You could just, okay, fine. You just hold on to it. I'll just wear the helmet.
I would seriously have a freak out. No, I would really freak out. It's so tight and it's.
Do you know what's crazy? To know that people our age have to sleep in this.
I really doubt what I've experienced today is what army life is actually like.
She's not just saying it, she clearly loves being here. But it just feels like propaganda. And I don't feel like I'm going to leave this place with any better understanding of what it is that makes people want to come here and give 3 years of their life to this army. Right now, if somebody asked me, I wouldn't have a clue. I wouldn't.
I'm moving on to Jerusalem, the city at the heart of the conflict in Israel. It's a fascinating but divided place. Palestinians and Israelis both claim it's their capital city. The different cultures and religions don't seem to mix. East Jerusalem is Arab and West is Israeli. It's also had some of the worst violence. Between 2000 and 2011, there were more than 40 attacks by Palestinian militants. The last one was 9 months ago. Some of the most important religious sites in Judaism and Islam are right beside each other here. I'm going to visit the Western Wall for my Jewish side and the Al-Aqsa Mosque for my Arab Muslim side. I'm not religious, but I'm hoping that such spiritually important places might give me a little taste of the faith people like my dad have. But today, things go wrong from the start.
Once again, what a surprise, I'm the only one stopped as we all walk through, and somebody from the crew has to say that I'm with you because otherwise I'm not allowed through because I have to be checked. What a surprise. I am boiling and it's hot and I'm wearing respectable clothes whilst loads of other people are wearing far less than me. I'm hot and bothered.
Then I discover that the Western Wall is segregated.
Look at that, like the men's wall. Oh, no, there is a space in between. Oh, the women get like a little
As I approach the wall, I change my mind. I just don't want to be here.
It just doesn't mean anything to me, and in one perspective, it's a bit disrespectful to go. I don't really want to. I'm doing the whole walking backwards thing, and I have to cover my hair.
For most Jews, the wall is literally the holiest place they'll ever go. For me, that's all the more reason that dividing it up is so wrong. I moved on to visit Al-Aqsa Mosque, the third holiest site in Islam. But once again, I have problems from the start. This time, they won't even let me in. He doesn't accept that I'm Muslim.
Like, the first thing that made me do is I went and called my dad, and like, he's the most religious person I know. We just tried to go into the Al-Aqsa Mosque, but where they won't let me in because they say I'm not Muslim. Is that normal? My dad was like, no, that's not what being a Muslim's about. It's just been such a disappointing afternoon. Like, the religion stuff is such bullshit. And like, I know it's not religion itself and blah, 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 but religion is bullshit. Being mixed race sometimes is really cool because it is like you have entry to more than just one culture, but it also sometimes means you have entry to none. Like, you're all and you're nothing. And today it feels like more nothing.
This is the barrier built by Israel, which separates itself and the Palestinian region of the West Bank. It's hundreds of miles long. Most Palestinians can only travel through the barrier with Israeli permission.
Can't really imagine what it would be like that this is your view out of your bedroom window every morning.
Israelis say the barrier is for security and prevents suicide bombers getting through. But Palestinians say Israel has used it to take control of land and restrict their freedom. I've heard the Jewish take on Israel. Now I want to hear from the other side, so I'm crossing the barrier line.
Oh, I hate these things.
First, we have to pass through a checkpoint called Kalandia. Checkpoints are controlled by the Israeli army, and there's a lot of security.
I feel completely caged in. That's like that tight, and there's people already trying to get through. Just imagine like rush hour when everyone's trying to get to work, trying to get through there.
I would not want to face a checkpoint every day of my life.
Even being in there for like 2 minutes, I feel a little bit pissed off. If I had to do that and I was running late for work and I hadn't had time to do my makeup and I was trying to get everything done as it is normally on a Monday morning, I would be livid.
Now we're in the West Bank, on the way to the Palestinian city of Ramallah.
It's crazy, like a half-hour drive, we were in a completely different world. No Hebrew written down anymore.
My brother was here 9 years ago when the Israeli army launched a crackdown on Palestinian violence. It was a dangerous place then. I want to see what it's like today.
Stars and bucks.
It's not at all what I expected.
I'm already quite in love with this place. Like I feel really kind of connected with it in a way I haven't yet. I haven't kind of been in this country as yet and kind of really felt like, oh, I get this, but I really get this. This is cool. It doesn't feel like Israel at all. At all.
Now that I'm seeing the West Bank as Palestinian, it's strange to think that Itamar's in this area. I'm going back to visit Awasa, the village just across the valley from Itamar. The young Palestinians arrested for murdering the Fogel family came from here.
My first thought when I heard that was what would drive somebody to want to kill a child in a cot, and then by the sounds of it not feel any remorse. That's what I was told, and I actually kind of wanted to find out for myself if that's actually what the feeling is.
I had hoped to meet the families of the arrested men, but when I arrive, they're too upset to talk to me. Instead, I meet a villager called Khalid, who knew the two young men. He tells me what life is like here since the murders.
Did you understand after what happened why the Israeli soldiers came here and interrogated villagers? Because babies were killed. A baby was killed in its cot in this crime.
أكيد طبعاً عملية القتل ما في أنا حكيت لك عملية القتل ما في إنسان بيقدر يستوعبها سواء يعني قتل عرب فلسطينيين ولا قتل يهود يعني إسرائيليين.
Khalid says since the arrests, the villagers' movements have been restricted.
الجيش ما بيسمح لأي حدا يتجاوز المنطقة هذه، الشارع هذا منه هانوغات كله ممنوع هذا يعني إذا هسه أنا إذا تبي تروح أنا بتجاوز المنطقة هاي تحت بيجي الجيش أنا برجعني ممكن يعتقلني يعني ويحتجزني.
As tragic as what happened to the Fogels was, I'm wondering if it's right that the whole village be punished.
I think it's almost irrelevant whether the people living in Itamar have a right to live in this land or not. I think the real issue is it's just not fair to have one village on one side of the hill is gated off and has running water and is relatively modern, and on the other side of the hill you've got kind of dirt track roads and people delivering water on a donkey.
Itamar and Awata feel like they could be a million miles apart. Back in Ramallah, I'm meeting up with Zainab Musleh, a Palestinian student who grew up here. Zainab remembers Israeli soldiers in her home during the crackdown 9 years ago.
We didn't go to school for 2 months or 3 months. We were not able to go out of our houses. Israeli soldiers were used to take our houses and live in them, in the same house.
Zainab protests for Palestinian rights and has strong political beliefs about the conflict. Do you ever feel sorry for young people, perhaps living in somewhere like Tel Aviv, a young girl your age, who is worried about maybe suicide bombers? Do you sympathise with that? Why not?
Because when I see babies in Gaza getting killed for doing nothing, when I see kids being in jails because of the Israeli occupation, I can't sympathize for those people.
Do you find here that people are ever friends with Jewish people?
Of course, there are many. Jews are not bad. Not all Jews are bad. Not all Jews are the same.
I wasn't prepared for Zainab's idea of how things could ultimately be resolved. So what would you like to see happen?
Them going out of our country and returning to where they came from.
But for some of them, they were born here.
They were born here, but they were born here as people who are occupying this country. Their fathers occupied us, killed us. Their grandfathers. They came from all around the world, so they can go back. If the United States loves Israeli people this much, so they can give them a shelter. U.S. is very big. It's bigger than here.
I can't understand how Zainab could think that way. Saying that all Jews need to go to America because America likes them, it's bullshit. Like, it's not going to work. It's unworkable. It's unrealistic. And she also did that thing that, so far, has kind of bugged me about a lot of the Israeli Jews that I've met, about talking about Jews as though it's them. And I understand that it comes with completely different experiences, but it's just as ignorant as the other side of things that I've been listening to. Today is the last Friday of Ramadan, and I'm going back to Kalandia checkpoint at the West Bank barrier to see a demonstration against Israeli restrictions.
From what I've heard, these protests are really kind of passionate, and people are really kind of even like violent at times. And so in a way I'm quite kind of, might sound wrong, but kind of excited to see a different type of demonstration.
This is a very holy day, so Palestinians are queuing in the hope they'll be allowed to enter Jerusalem to pray in Al-Aqsa Mosque. During Ramadan, the Israelis restrict access to men over 50 and women over 45. This is the women's queue. Many have been waiting here in the hot sun for hours.
When Zainab was talking yesterday, my first reaction was like, oh, it's just the other side of the coin, and it's just as vengeful and hateful as the other side of the argument I've heard. And I'm seeing this today, and I'm kind of understanding exactly what she means. If I have to go through this just to go and do something that's part of my culture, and you have people like Karen, who I met at the IDF base, who talks about this being fun and loving it so much and protecting her country. She was born in Britain, her family were born in Britain. Zainab's family have lived here for hundreds of years. This is not fair. There's no human exchange here, like the way they're dealing with people. They're standing there with guns that are loaded, whilst women and children walk past them.
It's time for noon prayers, so these women are now praying in the road. Once prayers finish, the demonstration begins. That mood's completely changed, like within a couple of minutes. Kids are running around like holding stones in their hands. We're having to move completely out of the way. We've been advised to just move out of the crowds. Someone just throwing stones across at the soldiers.
Immediately after the first stone is thrown from the protesters, Israeli soldiers fire tear gas into the crowd. It creates complete panic. The tear gas is really powerful and works so fast.
My skin was fucking burning, eyes burning. It's just fucked up. It's like...
If you want to help? What happened?
No, it's fine, thank you. I don't have a right to cry. Like, I don't have to go through this at all. And it's like kids like running along, being like tear gassed, like kids. Like the same age as my niece, so like a kid that was about 6 or 7.
It's just total chaos here, and it gets worse. Luckily, there was no one in the back of the ambulance and no one was seriously hurt. I can't stop thinking about how most of the people there today could face the same thing next week.
I'm not easily shocked, but I'm completely haunted by what I saw. Like, that will never leave me. Dealing with people like they're animals.
I want an explanation about what I saw at the checkpoint. The Israeli Defence Force agrees to give me an interview with a senior press officer. 2 stones were thrown as far as I saw, and the response immediately was that a tear gas canister was fired into a crowd of people, which included me, which included other press, which included old women, old men, people with children, babies, and also soldiers who didn't have tear gas masks on. Why was there no warning?
Our experience shows us that when we don't use that immediately, then the stones increase in their number and the riot gets out of hand.
Why was there no warning given before they were thrown?
Was there a warning for the protest? I don't think so.
I tried to explain how it felt on the other side of the barrier. It still, to me, felt as though I was going into a different world where all of a sudden people with guns were shouting at me and...
Well, how would you protect yourself? Tell me, I mean, I can tell you as an Israeli, forget the uniform. I'm a mother of 3 children. Between the years 2000 and 2006, I forbade them from going to malls, from using public transportation, or even walking alone on the streets without me. Imagine 1,000 people, amongst them Arab Israelis, that were killed only from suicide bombers. In restaurants, in coffee places, in malls, in buses. You have to understand where we're coming from with this security situation here.
I appreciated the chance to put my questions to the IDF, but it didn't change my opinion of what happened at the checkpoint.
If the same happened in Britain after the suicide attacks and I was stopped from moving around because my dad happened to be Muslim and I was told you can't travel to London anymore because there have been suicide attacks. There might not be any suicide attacks afterwards, but why should my freedom be curtailed because of that? I'm a human being. I have just as much right to freedom as her and her kids.
I haven't yet had that moment of feeling connected to Israel that people have told me about. I still feel like an outsider. But I've managed to track down distant relatives of my Jewish mum's family here in Jerusalem, my second cousins. Maybe they'll give me some connection here, but there's a lot at stake.
This could be quite life-changing if we find the first part of our family that actually live here and we get on, and I get on with them. It could mean the rest of my family coming out here and spending time with them. So, yeah, I am nervous about this one. I feel like I've dressed a bit like a nun. Schoolgirl, first day at school.
My cousin's name is Amir Levine. He and his wife Efrat have 3 young children and live in a suburb of Jerusalem.
Thank you. He's here to say thank you for inviting me. Oh, no,
Thanks a lot.
Very small thing, but thank you so much for having me here.
Amir and Efrat made me feel really welcome.
London, I was born, and then we moved to Oxford when I was, how old? About 5, and lived in Oxford ever since. So it's lovely there. Good excuse for you to come and visit now and see it.
Yeah. I love Oxford.
What were you doing there?
Just touring.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's lovely.
I could see a real resemblance between Amir and my mum.
It's not a very good picture of her, but she'll probably be very unhappy with me showing that. That's her with her champagne and the dog.
You want to see her?
Oh, let me show you.
What does she do?
She worked in publishing.
Amir showed me old photos of our family. His great-grandfather and my great-great-uncle was Shmariahu Levine, one of the early leaders of the movement that led to the founding of Israel. It's amazing to think I'm connected to someone so significant to the history of this country.
His eyes look so much like my mum's eyes, it's really weird.
Amir explained that Jerusalem in particular is not always an easy place to raise a family.
Here you see the conflict, it's everywhere, every day, and it doesn't always feel very nice.
We have many similar problems like many other places in the world, but what's different is that we live very close to an enemy, mixed up with them, and it's everyday life you feel the danger, you know. My daughter, we thought to let her use the bus, and just now happened to be a terror attack somewhere, and then I'm saying to me, no, I'll take her, I'll drive her, So it's always, and how do you explain to a little child not to make him hate Arabs, but to be aware that it's very complicated?
Meeting the Levines gave me a different insight on Israel, and we make plans to stay in touch. I wish my mum could have been here.
It does make you reassess things. It's weird. It's funny how as soon as it's your family, it's even if it is family like I've only just met, as soon as your family are the ones that have been in any way attacked, it's like it kind of changes what you think and how you feel about the situation. So yeah.
Walking down these streets in Jerusalem, the thought is never far away that a bomb might go off. Between 2000 and 2006, there were 25 suicide bomb attacks by Palestinians in Jerusalem. 187 people died and hundreds more were injured. Avigail Spiro is a Jewish Israeli girl who amazingly lived through 4 separate bomb attacks before she was 22. Nice to meet you. I'm Reya. How you doing? How you doing? Avigail moved to Israel from the US with her family when she was 8 because her father wanted to live in the Jewish homeland. 8 years later, Avigail was on her way home from school one day when a triple suicide bombing happened just here.
There was this huge blast and it hits me and I go flying against the wall. There were a few moments of just deafening silence. Just the silence of death. And then immediately afterwards, panic. And everyone started running towards the opposite direction and people were screaming and running all over the place. That was the only bombing in which I saw the body of the suicide bomber. But the interesting thing was that his head just popped off like a champagne cork. And it was a few meters away from him, a few good meters away from him. And his head was in complete tact. He had gel in his hair, and it was in perfect condition, his head, but his body was completely fucked up.
5 people were killed and 181 injured in the bombing. Avigail witnessed a second Palestinian suicide bomb attack near here, but wasn't hurt. A couple of years later, she was caught up in yet another attack.
I didn't realize that I was injured for a while because of the adrenaline. I didn't feel pain yet at that point, but I started feeling something drip down my face. And I look down and I see blood all over my clothes, and that's when I realized that I was injured. Some people tell me you're lucky, God is looking out for you. So what kind of God would subject me to this in the first place?
Abigail lost her job after that attack. She now works as a trainer for rescue dogs like Jimmy. Although the attacks deeply affected her, I'm amazed at the outlook she now has on them.
People just want to live their lives at the end of the day. And the Palestinians, a lot of the Palestinians have been robbed of a lot of their basic freedoms and rights, not only by the Israelis, by the way, also by their own government. But I can understand where they're coming from. I can understand their anger.
That's amazing. That sense of kind of having compassion is something that I've been looking for since coming here. And one of the things that I've experienced since being here is the wall that was set up. And heard a lot of people say that Israel is a safer place because of that wall.
It is, and that's a fact. And I have mixed feelings about the wall. But the effectiveness of the wall has proven itself over the years. It's indisputable.
Like meeting the Levines, meeting Abigail has given me a new understanding of the Israeli side of this conflict.
I think she's a really amazing person because I don't know, hand on heart, if I could say if the same thing had happened to me, if I would be so aggressive in my thoughts and not fall into that trap of blaming a group of people where in a country like this it seems like it's the easiest thing to do when anything goes wrong.
Despite the current tensions, we've been given the okay by our security advisors to go to Gaza, one of the most dangerous places in the Middle East. I'll get to see life there and speak to a young Hamas activist. There's a real risk of being attacked or kidnapped by Islamic extremists, so we only have a window of a few hours.
The more I spoke to people, the more I realised that to really understand this place, I have to visit here. So no second thoughts at all. But I am feeling a little bit panicky.
Gaza is a tiny Palestinian area on the southern tip of Israel. Over 1 million Palestinians live there. It's completely fenced in, and Israel tightly restricts access for both people and supplies. But inside Gaza, the militant Islamic group Hamas are in control. America, Europe, and Israel consider Hamas to be terrorists. By closing off Gaza, Israel wants to isolate Hamas and stop rocket attacks on Israeli towns. We're just about to arrive at the border.
So we have to get out of the car and walk across the crossing point. We can't drive through, and our Israeli producer can't come with us because Israelis aren't allowed across this border, so it's just us, the film crew, walking through.
We're not allowed to film inside the checkpoint.
Just come through the border into Gaza, and it is literally like a rat run, 10-minute walk through caged kind of walkway.
We have to travel with the local BBC producer in a bulletproof car at all times for security.
Already, just through driving into Gaza for less than 5 minutes, I can already see such a stark difference to everything I've experienced so far since being here. There's graffiti on every single wall we pass by.
We're heading for Jabalia refugee camp. It's a stronghold of Hamas. It's hard to believe this is still part of Israel. But the person I was supposed to meet has been arrested this morning. I still want to explore and try to speak to someone else.
Lots of people out on the streets as well, and lots of young people out on the streets by the looks of it.
There are not enough schools or teachers here, so children can only attend school in shifts. As soon as we get out of the car in Jabalia, we have an audience.
Hello, 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 hello. Goodbye. Goodbye. Hello. Merhaba. Mohammed.
Mohammed. Hello, Mohammed. That's one way to get the kids to go.
We get an invitation from this little boy to visit his home. It's not part of our plan, but we're going to take a chance that it's safe. Such small spaces. Hello. Hello, nice to meet you.
Nice to see you. How are you?
Very well, how are you?
My name is Iman.
Reya, I'm Reya.
Yeah.
Lovely to meet you.
Yeah. Where are you from?
England. From England.
Journalist?
Yes.
Welcome. This is my home. Thank you.
This is Iman. She was born in Jabalia and shares this house with 7 other members of her family. I can't believe 8 people live here.
Yes,
hello.
Excuse me, I speak English little.
No, English is good. My Arabic shwaya. Iman tells me one of her brothers was killed by the Israeli army. He's now regarded as a martyr. Iman describes how the children are affected by the violence they've grown up with.
Play with the others. Israeli and Palestine.
They play games of being an Israeli and a Palestinian.
Yes.
Can you ask him what he wants to be when he grows up?
You see, our dream, live in peace with the Israeli and with the others, but not like this life.
Our local producer is worried we've been in one place for too long, so we have to leave. I asked a 12-year-old kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said, a fighter. And she's talking about how when he sleeps at night, he dreams about the Israelis breaking into his house and trying to kill him. And he's 12 and he looked about 8. He was tiny. We head to a place called Beit Hanun. It's closer to the Israeli side and I can see signs of fighting with the Israeli army. This building on the left here, with all the holes in,
yeah,
is that bullet holes?
Yes.
Oh my God. I would not want to live here. If I was given the choice of living in Tel Aviv, where you can get your nails done and go and relax on the beach with a mojito and go shopping and clubbing and all the rest of it, or you can live in the middle of a rubbish tip with bullet holes in your front door, I know which one I'd prefer. But then they've not got the choice here to make that decision, so it's this or nothing. Despite the terrible poverty, parts of Gaza are still much livelier and busier than I expected. But everywhere I look, there are Hamas flags and graffiti. You can see just how strong the political opinion is here. I'd still like to talk to young people about the politics. A young guy called Kareem approaches us. He's a Hamas supporter, and I ask him how he feels about Israel.
They don't belong here. Those are mercenaries, and must be getting out from here, you know?
Young Israelis I've spoken to say that this is their country and that they have the right to live here. What do you think about that?
They don't have any rights to be here. By our hands, by warm hands, and good real friends from Arab countries and foreign countries, if they want to help us to get these people out from this country, we will get our peace. Without anything else, without anything, we will never live like the life that we want to live.
We're running out of time in Gaza. We have to get back before the checkpoint closes. If I had to live in this kind of condition, if I had to live under these rules, I wouldn't be saying, oh, I want peace and I want us all to hold hands and skip around a campfire. I'd be a 12-year-old saying that when I grow up I want to be a fighter. I do understand why for Israel this is like a real threat. This place is their enemy on their doorstep. And I don't know what the answer is, but this is not it. Making over 1 million people live in an open prison is not the answer. I'm coming to the end of my time in Israel and feel like this experience has really opened my eyes to the conflict that runs right through the heart of my family. It's such a complicated place, and it seems everyone has an opinion about what should be done.
Being both Jewish and Muslim really highlighted some of the problems and inequalities in the country to me. There's absolutely no integration in this country, and particularly coming from Britain, where I think despite all the problems we've got, when it comes to integration, we're pretty good as a country. But this thing of living completely separate lives within one society and everyone is so separated, it just isn't going to, it's not going to end up well. Hello! Hey, Dad, how are you doing? It's strange to be home and look back at everything I experienced and how it's changed me.
Can I have a mum cup of tea, please?
Yes. A little side of me thought before going out to Israel that I would go there and I would figure out the answer to the conflict and I'd be able to save the world and fly the flag and the whole country would be renamed Reya's land. And that's not going to happen. The more time I spent there, the more difficult and complex and complicated I realised that this issue is. But that's because it's people. And I don't know whether there is a simple answer, but I definitely feel like having the experience that I've had has opened my eyes to experience things through different people's perspectives and to walk a day in other people's shoes. And that's where, if anywhere, that's where the conflict's going to begin to be resolved. Maybe I could save the Middle East yet. Reya's land could be the newest nation to be born. Yeah.
And next week at 9, we follow the story of Andrew Ibrahim, the public school boy found guilty of planning a terrorist attack on a Bristol shopping centre in the boarding school bomber. Next up, EastEnders.